I'll write Part 1. The Outcast in approximately 800 words using simple English and third-person style. I'll make it interesting while using basic language and avoid headings. The stars stretched endlessly outside the viewport as Taewon leaned against the cold metal wall of the ship's engine room. The constant hum of the Stellar Fortune's drives had become his only comfort aboard a vessel where no one wanted him. Taewon wiped sweat from his brow as he finished recalibrating the secondary thrust manifolds. It was dirty work that none of the alien crew wanted to do. That made it Taewon's job by default. Human. The captain wants you on the bridge. The voice belonged to Goro, the ship's navigator. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of impatience. In his species, Taewon nodded and put away his tools. He didn't bother cleaning up. The aliens would complain about his human smell either way. The bridge of the Stellar Fortune buzzed with activity as alien crew members worked at their stations. Captain Sorak, a tall, blue-skinned alien with ridges running along his skull, turned as Taewon entered. "Finally," Sorak said. "I was beginning to think you had gotten lost in the ventilation ducts again." Laughter rippled across the bridge. Taewon had never been in the ventilation ducts. That was just one of many jokes about humans being small and weak. "You wanted to see me, Captain?" Taewon kept his voice steady and professional. "Yes. We're approaching the Nara system. There's a scrap field there from some ancient battle. Your kind is good at crawling into small spaces. You'll lead the salvage team." Taewon had 8 years of engineering experience and was certified in 5 different propulsion systems. Yet here he was, reduced to a crawler because of his species. "Understood. Captain," he said, swallowing his pride. "Don't look so sad, human," said Mila, the weapons officer. Her scaled skin shimmered under the bridge lights. "Maybe you'll find some shiny rocks to play with." More laughter. Taewon had learned to let it wash over him. 3 hours later, Taewon sat in the pilot seat of the small salvage shuttle. With him were Darrow and Pell, 2 junior engineers who had drawn the short sticks to work with the human. "Remember, don't touch anything without scanning it first," Darrow said, his single eye blinking. Nervously, "Not all of us have expendable lives." "I know the protocols," Taewon replied, focusing on the controls. The shuttle shuddered as they left the Stellar Fortune and headed toward the debris field. The scrap field was impressive, twisted metal, and broken ships spanning kilometers of space. Most were from the last great war between the Tora Confederacy and the Sil Empire, over 100 years ago. "Standard sweep pattern," Taewon instructed. "We'll start at the edges and work inward." "We know how to do our jobs," Pell snapped, her antenna twitching in annoyance. They worked in silence for an hour, tagging valuable metals and intact components. The Stellar Fortune would retrieve them later. Taewon was inspecting an old navigation array when his scanner picked up something unusual. An energy signature, faint but steady, coming from deeper in the field. "I'm getting a reading," he said over the comm. "Possibly a power source still active." "Impossible," Darrow replied. "Nothing could still be running after all this time." "I'm picking it up clearly," Taewon insisted. "It looks like, a distress signal." "Return to the shuttle," ordered Captain Sorak through the comm. "We're not chasing ghost signals." Taewon hesitated. The signature was unlike anything in the Confederation database. "It could be valuable. Captain, with respect, this could be worth investigating. The pattern suggests advanced technology." "The human thinks he's found treasure," Mila's voice cut in, followed by mocking laughter. "I'll bet my next 3 pay cycles that this is worth our time," Taewon said. He rarely gambled, but he trusted his instincts. A long pause followed. "Very well," the captain finally said. "You have 2 hours. But when this proves to be nothing, those pay cycles are mine." Taewon smiled for the first time in weeks. "Thank you, Captain." Darrow and Pell complained the entire way as they followed, the signal deeper into the field. The debris became denser, forcing them to navigate carefully. "This is foolish," Pell muttered. "Nothing but junk out here." Then they saw it. Unlike the broken ships around it, this vessel was intact. Its design was unlike anything Taewon had ever seen, sleek and elegant, with no visible propulsion system. It didn't match any known species architecture, "What is that?" Darrow whispered, his bravado gone. "I don't know," Taewon admitted, "but it's the source of the signal." They approached cautiously. The ship was small, perhaps a scout or personal vessel. No markings, no identifiable features except a sealed entry port. "We should call this in," Pell suggested, her voice shaking. Slightly, Taewon reported their find to the Stellar Fortune. Within minutes, the salvage ship was moving to their position. As they waited, Taewon studied the mysterious vessel. Something about it felt strangely familiar, though he couldn't explain why. When he placed his hand near the hull, the metal seemed to shimmer slightly. "Don't touch it," Darrow hissed. "I'm not," Taewon replied. But he couldn't shake the feeling that the ship was somehow responding to his presence. For once, none of the aliens were laughing at him, and soon they would discover why. The Stellar Fortune arrived at the mysterious vessel's location within an hour. Captain Sorak ordered everyone to maintain distance while the science team conducted preliminary scans. The alien ship hung motionless against the backdrop of stars, its smooth hull reflecting no light despite the salvage vessel's powerful spotlights. "Interesting," said Hana, the chief science officer. Her 4 tentacle arms worked quickly across the sensor panel. "Our scans cannot penetrate the hull. Material composition unknown." Captain Sorak's face ridges darkened, a sign of suspicion among his kind. "Is it dangerous?" "No radiation, no weapon signature," Hana replied. "But there's definitely an energy source inside." "Perhaps it's a trap," suggested Mila from Weapons Station. "The human led us to a trap." Taewon ignored the accusation. He couldn't explain his certainty, but he knew this vessel was important. "Request permission to board with a small team," he said. The bridge fell silent. Even Mila seemed surprised by his boldness. Captain Sorak studied Taewon for a long moment. "Very well, since you found it, you can risk your life first. Take Hana and 2 security officers." An hour later, Taewon floated toward the mysterious ship in his EVA suit, accompanied by Hana and 2 large security officers named Krev and Zuno. The closer they got, the more unusual the ship appeared. Its surface was completely smooth with no visible seams or joints. "How do we get in?" Zuno asked, his armored exoskeleton clicking as he moved. "There must be an entrance somewhere," Taewon replied, moving carefully around the hull. As he approached what seemed to be the front of the vessel, a section of the hull suddenly changed color. A perfect rectangle appeared, glowing softly. "It's responding to our presence," Hana observed, her voice excited. Krev raised his weapon. "Or it's targeting us." "No," Taewon said. "I think it's a Mador." He moved closer to the glowing rectangle. The light pulsed slightly, as if in greeting. Carefully, Taewon reached out his gloved hand and touched the surface. The rectangle dissolved, revealing an opening into the ship. "It opened for you," Hana whispered, awe in her voice. "Pure coincidence," Krev muttered, but he sounded uncertain. The team entered cautiously. Inside, soft lights activated as they moved forward, illuminating a short corridor that led to a small command center. Everything was designed for a bipedal species of approximately human size. "This ship was built for someone like you," Hana said to Taewon. "Impossible," Zuno replied. "Humans only achieved spaceflight a century ago. This ship is much older." Taewon moved toward what appeared to be the pilot's seat. As he approached, the console lit up with strange symbols that scrolled rapidly across the screen. "Can anyone read this?" he asked. Hana moved closer, her scanner working. "It's no language in our database," yet something about the symbols felt familiar to Taewon. He sat down in the pilot's seat. The moment he did, the entire ship hummed to life. The symbols stopped scrolling and formed neat rows. "What did you do?" Krev demanded, raising his weapon again. "Nothing," Taewon replied honestly. "It just responded to me." A new doorway opened at the back of the command center, one that hadn't been visible before. Soft light spilled from it, inviting them deeper into the ship. "We should report this before going further," Zuno suggested, but Taewon was already moving. toward the new opening drawn by curiosity he couldn't explain. The others followed reluctantly. The doorway led to a small chamber. In its center stood what appeared to be a suit of armor, suspended in a field of energy. It was humanoid in shape, with a sleek design that suggested both protection and power. "What is that?" Hana whispered, moving closer to scan it. "Some kind of battlesuit," Taewon guessed. When he approached, the energy field surrounding the armor pulsed brightly. The others stepped back in alarm, but Taewon felt no fear, only a strange sense of recognition. "Be careful," Hana warned. Taewon stood before the armor, studying its design. It would fit a human perfectly. As he reached toward it, symbols appeared. In the air between him and the suit, the same symbols from the console now forming complex patterns. "The ship recognizes you," Hana said, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. "Try touching the armor." Before Taewon could decide, Captain Sorak's voice came through their comms. "Report your findings immediately." "What have you discovered?" Krev answered quickly. "Some kind of ancient vessel, Captain, and a suit of armor that seems to respond to the human." There was a long pause before Sorak replied, his voice sharp with new interest. "Do not touch anything further. I'm coming aboard with the full science team." But as Taewon turned to acknowledge the order, his hand accidentally brushed against the energy field. The symbols flared brilliantly, and the armor's faceplate suddenly illuminated with a soft blue light, almost like eyes opening after a long sleep. The energy field around the armor vanished the moment Taewon's hand made contact. The room fell, silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. The armor remained suspended but now seemed to be waiting. "Step away from it, human," ordered Captain Sorak as he entered the chamber with 4 more crew members. His eyes widened at the sight of the armor. "What have you done?" "Nothing, Captain. It just reacted when I got close," Taewon explained, carefully stepping back. Sorak pushed past him, approaching the armor himself. Nothing happened. No symbols, no changes in lighting. The captain reached out to touch it, but his hand met invisible resistance a few centimeters from the surface. "Interesting," he muttered. "Hana, analyze this barrier." Hana scanned the space around the armor. "There's no barrier, Captain. Not for all of us, at least." She glanced at Taewon. "Only the human can touch it." The captain's face darkened. "Impossible. This technology must predate human spaceflight by thousands of years." Jaewon, the ship's historian, studied the symbols still floating in the air. "These markings share similarities with ancient scripts found on multiple worlds. They may be a form of universal language." Sorak turned to Taewon. "Touch it again. Let's see what happens." Nervously, Taewon approached the armor once more. As his fingers made contact with the smooth surface, a shock ran through his body. Not painful, but intense. Images flashed in his mind, stars seen from unfamiliar angles, beings that looked almost human piloting great ships, and battles against creatures of shadow and flame. He pulled his hand away, gasping. "What happened?" demanded Sorak. "I saw things, like memories, but not mine." Taewon struggled to put the experience into words. "I think this armor contains some kind of recorded history," Sorak's communicator beeped. "Captain, we have a situation. A Confederation diplomatic vessel just entered the system and is demanding we secure the area. High Commander Jin is aboard and wishes to speak with you." Sorak's expression shifted to one of concern. "Secure this chamber. No one touches anything until I return." After the captain left, Taewon found himself standing guard with Krev while the others returned to the ship to prepare for the commander's arrival. "This doesn't make sense," Krev said quietly. "How could something so old respond to a species so young?" Taewon had been wondering the same thing. The visions he'd seen suggested a civilization that existed long before humans had even developed writing. Against orders, he touched the armor again. This time, the connection was stronger. Words formed in his mind, in a language he somehow understood. "Descendant. You have returned to claim your inheritance." Taewon pulled back, startled. "It spoke to me," he whispered. "What?" Krev moved closer, alarmed. Before Taewon could explain, the armor began to change. Pieces separated and floated in the air, rearranging themselves. Krev raised his weapon, but Taewon held up a hand. Wait. I don't think it's dangerous. The armor. Components continued to shift until they formed a kind of chair or seat. A soft light pulsed at its center, inviting. What's it doing? Krev asked, keeping his weapon ready. I think it wants me to sit there. Against all common sense and safety protocols. Taewon approached the transformed armor. As he sat in the strange seat, the components moved again, surrounding him without touching him. Suddenly, his mind expanded. Knowledge flowed into him. Star maps, technological concepts, and most shocking of all, history. The truth hit him like a physical blow. Humans weren't newcomers to the galaxy. They were returnees. Long ago, beings nearly identical to humans had traveled the stars. They had built great civilizations, fought terrible wars, and eventually, for reasons still unclear, disappeared from the galactic stage. Some had remained on a beautiful blue world, choosing to begin again, their technology and history deliberately forgotten. Earth. Taewon. Are you okay? Krev's voice seemed distant. The armor components withdrew, returning to their original form. Taewon stood, feeling different, connected to something vast and ancient. The High Commander has arrived, announced Captain Sorak, returning to the chamber with a tall, elegant alien in formal diplomatic attire. This is Commander Jin of the Galactic Confederation Council. Jin stepped forward, his silver eyes fixed on Taewon. So it's true. A human has activated ancestor technology. His voice was soft but carried authority. This information was not meant to be discovered yet. What information? Asked Sorak. Jin ignored him, addressing Taewon directly. The Council has known of the connection between humans and the ancestors. We have monitored your species for centuries, waiting for signs of awakening. Taewon met the commander's gaze. The armor showed me the truth. Humans are descendants of an ancient spacefaring civilization. Yes, Jin admitted. The ones we call the Shapers. They seeded many worlds, but Earth was special. Their home. Captain Sorak looked confused. Why keep this secret? Politics, Jin said simply. The revelation that humans are descended from the most powerful civilization in galactic history would destabilize the power balance. Some fear what humans might become if they reclaimed their heritage. The armor pulsed with light, responding to Taewon's presence. It's too late for secrets now, Taewon said. The connection has been made. The chamber fell silent after Taewon's words. Commander Jin's face showed concern while Captain Sorak looked confused and angry. The armor continued to pulse with a soft blue light that seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. This discovery changes nothing, Commander Jin said finally. The Council has decided that humanity is not ready for this knowledge. This ship and the armor must be secured and studied by Confederation scientists. You mean hidden away? Taewon said, surprised by the confidence in his own voice. Since connecting with the armor, something had changed in him. Jin's silver eyes narrowed. You don't understand the implications. If humans learned they were descendants of the Shapers, the balance of power would shift overnight. Some species would seek alliance with Earth, others would move to destroy humanity before it reclaimed its ancient strength. Captain Sorak stepped forward. Commander, with respect, my crew discovered this vessel. We have salvage rights under Confederation law. This goes beyond salvage rights, Jin snapped. This is a matter of galactic security. While they argued, Taewon felt the armor calling to him, not with words, but with feelings, urgency, warning, purpose. He moved closer, to it, drawn by an instinct he couldn't explain. Jin noticed and raised his hand. A small device appeared in his palm. Step away from the armor, human, this is your only warning. What is that device? Captain Sorak demanded. A neural disruptor. It won't kill him, just render him unconscious. Taewon hesitated, torn between obedience and the pull of the armor. My orders come from the highest level of the Council. Jin continued. This technology must be contained. The human must be isolated and studied. Studied? Taewon repeated. You mean experimented on? Jin didn't deny it. The connection between your kind and Shaper technology is something we've been monitoring for decades. Now we have proof. From outside the chamber came the sound of heavy footsteps. 6 armed guards in Confederation uniforms entered, weapons drawn. Secure the human and the artifact, Jin ordered. Captain Sorak stepped between them and Taewon. This is still my ship, Commander. I won't allow you to take my crew member without proper documentation. Your loyalty is admirable but misplaced, Jin said coldly. This is not about one human. It's about preventing another Shaper empire from rising. The guards moved forward. Krev raised his weapon uncertainly, caught between loyalty to his captain and fear of the Confederation. Taewon felt time slowing down. The armor's light pulsed faster, almost desperately now. Without conscious thought, he reached out and touched it. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The armor dissolved into a liquid-like substance that flowed up his arm and across his body. Within seconds, it had covered him completely, forming a second skin of incredible lightness and strength. Stop him, Jin shouted, raising his neural disruptor. The beam hit Taewon squarely in the chest but dispersed harmlessly across the armor's surface. Inside the suit, information flooded Taewon's mind. Combat tactics, weapon systems, the armor's capabilities. It was as if he had trained for years in its use. The guards fired their weapons. Taewon moved with impossible speed, dodging most shots while the few that hit did no damage. The armor enhanced his natural strength and reflexes beyond anything a human should be capable of. Impossible, Jin whispered, backing away. The armor shouldn't accept a novice. It requires years of training. But Taewon wasn't fighting like a novice. The armor seemed to anticipate his intentions, guiding his movements with subtle pressure. When a guard rushed him, Taewon sidestepped effortlessly and disabled the attacker with a precise strike. The human neural pattern, Jin realized. It's compatible with Shaper technology in ways our species never were. Captain Sorak watched in amazement as Taewon disabled the remaining guards without seriously injuring them. What are you? He asked his former crewman. Inside the armor, Taewon felt strangely calm. I'm still human, he replied, his voice resonating with new authority. But now I understand what that really means. Jin backed toward the exit. This changes nothing. The Council will never allow humans to access their heritage. They're too unpredictable, too emotional. Taewon approached the commander, the armor moving with him like a second skin. You've been afraid of humans from the beginning, not because we're weak, but because you suspected what we really are. Your kind were never meant to return to the stars, Jin said bitterly. The Shaper's final mistake was creating beings they couldn't control. Or perhaps their greatest achievement, Taewon replied. Jin fled the chamber. The ship's systems responded to Taewon's thoughts, sealing the entrance behind the commander. Captain Sorak stared at his former subordinate, now transformed. What happens now? Now, Taewon said, looking at his armored hands, humanity learns the truth. 3 months had passed since the discovery of the ancient ship. News had spread quickly across the Confederation, despite the Council's attempts to suppress it. Taewon stood on the observation deck of the Nova Horizon, a human exploration vessel. Through the viewport, Earth shimmered like a blue jewel, his home, yet somehow different now that he knew the truth. Commander Kim, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Central, said Minju, his communications officer. Put it through, Taewon replied, his voice calm and assured. The screen activated, showing Admiral Park, head of Earth's newly formed Space Defense Initiative. Taewon, we've analyzed the star charts from the Shaper database. The coordinates point to 7 more derelict ships scattered across the galaxy. And the Council's position? Unchanged. Admiral Park sighed. They've placed sanctions on Earth, trade routes, and restricted our access to certain systems. Taewon wasn't surprised. Fear was a powerful motivator, and right now, every established species in the Confederation feared humanity's potential. The armor had shown him that humans, were not just descendants of the Shapers, they were their intended successors. The Symphony has docked with us, Minju reported. Captain Sorak is requesting permission to come aboard. Tywin smiled. Sorak had been one of the few alien captains to publicly support humanity after the revelation. It had cost him his standing in the Confederation fleet, but gained him something more valuable: the truth. Sorak arrived on the observation deck minutes later. His blue skin had darkened with age, but his eyes were still sharp. "It seems I made the right choice 3 months ago," he said, looking at the fleet of human ships gathered in Earth orbit. "You chose truth over politics," Tywin replied. "That's always the right choice. The Council doesn't see it that way. 6 more species have joined their embargo against Earth. They're afraid." "They should be," said a new voice. Yuna entered the deck wearing the uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Once a junior analyst, she was now humanity's chief negotiator with the Confederation. "Not because we plan to conquer them, but because we won't let them control us anymore." In the 3 months since the discovery, Earth had undergone a renaissance. The armor, now understood to be a repository of Shaper knowledge as well as a weapon, had revealed technological principles that human scientists were quickly adapting. Already, Earth's ships were faster, their shields stronger. "We've received reports that Commander Jin has assembled a task force," Sorak warned. "They're calling it a containment initiative, but it's a battle fleet." Tywin nodded. "We expected this. The Council fears change, especially when it threatens their power." "Will you fight them?" Sorak asked. "Only if they force us to," Tywin replied. He touched the small medallion at his throat, a piece of the armor that remained with him always while the rest was being studied by Earth's best scientists. The Shapers weren't conquerors. They were explorers and builders. That's the legacy we choose to follow. The ship's alert system chimed. "Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel," reported Minju. "Confederation signatures. It's a large fleet." On the view screen, dozens of warships appeared at the edge of the solar system. At their center was an enormous vessel unlike any Tywin had seen before. "The Judgment of Stars," Sorak whispered. "The Council's flagship. I didn't think they would risk it." Admiral Park's face reappeared on the screen. "All ships. Battle stations. Defensive positions only." Tywin closed his eyes, touching his medallion. In his mind, he could see the paths of probability spreading out before him. Another gift from the armor. Most led to conflict, but one, narrow and uncertain, led to something better. "Open a channel to the Confederation fleet," he ordered. Moments later, Commander Jin's face appeared on the screen. Age had not softened his features. "Tywin Kim, surrender the Shaper technology and submit to Council authority, or we will be forced to take action." "You still don't understand," Tywin replied calmly. "The technology wasn't meant for you. It was waiting for us. Your species is too young, too emotional to wield such power. Perhaps that's exactly why we were chosen." Tywin stepped closer to the screen. "We don't want war, Commander. The universe is vast enough for all of us." "Pretty words," Jin scoffed. "But your actions tell a different story. In 3 months, you've built weapons that should have taken decades. Not weapons, ships. To find the other artifacts to learn who we were and who we can be." Jin hesitated, studying Tywin's face. "The Council has voted. Earth will be quarantined until the Shaper technology is surrendered. Then you leave us no choice but to show you what we've learned." Tywin nodded to Minju. Around Earth, the human ships activated previously hidden systems. Not weapons, but something more profound. A signal spread outward, touching each Confederation vessel. On their bridges, ancient symbols appeared, the language of the Shapers. "What is this?" Jin demanded, his composure breaking. "A message," Tywin replied. "From those who came before, to all of us." As the message played across every ship in both fleets, a simple truth emerged. The Shapers hadn't disappeared. They had evolved beyond physical form, leaving their technology as a test. Only when the younger races could overcome their fears, and prejudices would they be ready to join their shaper ancestors among the stars? We have a choice, Taywin said, looking not just at Jin, but at all who were watching. Continue fighting over the past, or build the future together. In the silence that followed, a new path opened before them all,